And joining us now is Democratic Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton of the District of Columbia. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Martin.
In your years of fighting for civil rights, and they are decades in your whole life, then fighting for the people in your district, do you ever remember an atmosphere as obstructive, as cantankerous as Washington is today?
Martin, unlike today, the atmosphere in 1963 was fighting about something real, two ways of life. In essence, the Civil War was not yet over in 1963. And you could understand, if you step back from history, that this was the last gasp of the old South. Compare that today, where almost all of our problems would only take people sitting down at a table. And yet, what was required in '63 was a true breakthrough. A president who would say, as President Kennedy did, civil rights is a moral issue. And he will always be remembered for that. So the difference is, it seems we have no right to the polarization we have today. For '63, that polarization was inevitable until we settled the race question, which was the preeminent question of the day. Now, today, the preeminent question is economic. All it would take is sitting down and dividing up how we would each treat those things. Remember, the Democrats had the Southern Democrats in their fold, which made it very hard for John F. Kennedy to move forward to do what he obviously wanted to do.
Yeah.
So we had to come to grips with them, and then to the Republicans, who, to their credit, moved toward him on civil rights.
How would civil rights move forward in today's culture, where the Speaker of the House, and I'm not exaggerating, you know this to be the truth, won't even take up immigration reform? He said he spends his time at his computer mocking the very insurance he's just signed up for, tweeting, sending out photographs to people, entertaining them, when we have 47 million people in this country who don't have health insurance. We have over 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country who live as different class of citizens. And yet that's the response we get?
Well, I have to tell you, Martin, the intransigence of the Republicans today, particularly over issues that could be easily settled, reminds me of the intransigence of the Southern Democrats, who refused to move on civil rights until they had to, until, of course, the civil rights movement mounted a massive demonstration. In 1963, you had the March on Washington, which raised the hopes of Americans all over the country of every background. And only 3 months later, John F. Kennedy was dead.
Now, you yourself were a student at Yale Law School, I believe, when the president was assassinated. What is your memory of that day specifically?
Well, I was fresh out of having been in the South. The last place to be cracked was Mississippi. I'd been a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And I was back in law school, just really itching to become a civil rights lawyer. I remember exactly where I was, as I think almost everyone on that day will remember, because I was across the street from the law school, walking down the street with another friend, and a car stopped, just an ordinary automobile, and said, "The president is dead." And he stopped and let us sit in the car. The door was open, so that we could hear what the newscast was. This was the most unbelievable event in my lifetime. And I must say that even if I consider today, except for the assassination of Martin Luther King, it remains the most unbelievable event in my lifetime.
The kindness of strangers in the midst of your grief. Delegate Eleanor